We are back with your favorite time of the day. It is definitely one of my favorite times of the day, and it is time for us to flow with tarot. This is the Flow with Tarot segment on Magic in Motion. So if you are new here, welcome. I see some new subscribers coming on. So glad to have you here. Let me know in the comments where you're from. If you just the channel was suggested, or maybe you found this channel from my main channel, which is Unleashed Alchemy TV. Regardless of how you got here, I'm glad you're here. So let's just go on with the card for the day. Now, if you started with me on this Flow with Tarot segment, if you remember the very first video, we had a very thick stack of 78 tarot cards. And look where we're at now. We're almost done. Now, I'm going through this segment to show you my process of connecting with each card. This is a brand new tarot deck. I haven't even used this deck for an official reading, okay? Because I like to go through and connect with each card first. Even though this is a deck that I have used. So this is the melanated version of the Rider-Waite tarot deck. Okay. And this is designed by Kashira Hickson, and you can find this deck on Etsy. Okay. You can also, I believe she has a website. She does have a website, which is mahoganytarot.com. You can find this deck there. But, I'm just sharing you my process of going through a fresh new deck. All right. We know how exciting that is. And if you are also a fellow tarot reader, leave me a comment. Okay. Share with me your process as well if you'd like to do so. Maybe you're new to tarot. Maybe tarot is just something that you have always been interested in, always. That is how I got into it. Listen, let me give you a little story. I grew up in religion, okay? Religion, hardcore religion. Religion in itself is hardcore in itself because it strips you away from, or it tries to strip you away from your authenticity, from your spirituality, your own spirituality. It gives you something else, okay, to quote, live by. Anyway, tarot was just one of the tools that I always had an affinity toward, even through my religious experience. It was always something that caught my eye. It was always something in the back of my mind that I was just completely intrigued by. But of course, in religion, you don't touch that stuff because that stuff was considered witchcraft. And here's the thing. The tarot, the use of tarot and what it symbolizes is a part of the spiritual technology that is a part of my DNA, that is in my DNA. So when I decided, even after I left religion, I was still afraid to dabble into that stuff. And I'm using that in air quotes because that's what religious people say. Okay, don't touch that stuff. But anyway, I just got tired of being afraid. I said, you know what? This is dumb. All right. This is something that I feel passionate and strongly about. I'm going to allow myself to explore it. And it's been a fun exploration. And I have not stopped exploring since. This was decades ago. Okay. So that was my very brief story of how I came into tarot. So this is what I'll say, and this applies to the use of tarot in your spiritual practice and any other spiritual tools that you feel an affinity toward. First, start there, okay? Start there. What do you have an affinity toward? Because, and the reason why I'm stressing that is because your spiritual practice is not something that you have to force. It is just a natural progression in, okay? So you start there. Now that you have, if you're watching this, you've left a religion and you're saying you've gotten some time to know yourself, because you have to do that first. And now you're saying, okay, I feel an affinity toward this tool, or I feel an affinity toward, I'm just throwing this out there. I feel an affinity toward perhaps candle magic, or I feel more of an affinity to really focus on herbs, to focus on connecting with the earth. Start with what you have an affinity toward. Because here's another thing about spirituality. And this is where I see a lot of people making a mistake. Don't try to do everything. There is this fear of missing out. You're not missing out on anything. If you are not, let's say that you have this affinity toward just nature, being out in nature. Maybe you really don't have an affinity toward candle magic. You don't have an affinity toward the flame. Well, if you never touch the flame, you will never miss out because you are in your magic, which is connecting with the earth. Okay, that is just an example. So start with what you have an affinity toward. Okay, so that was a 6-minute introduction. So let's pull a card. Let's just pull a card. And again, if you're new here, this is not a reading. This is me going through my process of connecting with these cards. And we're just talking through the card, just seeing what comes up. Now, if you happen to get something that you can use from this segment, by all means, use it. All right. So this is the World card that just came out. So what is coming, what I feel right now with this card is that many of you, or I shouldn't even put it that way, because this is not a reading. Remember, this card is reminding us that being vulnerable can be safe. Okay? Being vulnerable is not a negative thing. What has happened with society is that there has been this heavy push that gives the message that being around people, having connections with people, being in community spaces is a negative thing. There has been, and with that messaging, there's also been a heavy push to individualism. Cut people off. Set boundaries. Setting boundaries is good. That is emotionally intelligent to do that. I'm not saying that setting boundaries is not good, because we all need to do that on all levels. But there needs to be a balance. So there's been this heavy push. You don't need anyone. Do it yourself. This is why you see a lot of people saying, oh, well, I have isolated myself because I don't want to deal with people. People are too negative. People are too this or too that. So I just isolate myself with no balance. Okay. So what that has done is that it has made people believe that being vulnerable, first of all, to even have relationships with other people is not safe. And then being vulnerable is also not safe. So you can have relationships, and this is friendships, romantic relationships, any type of connection. So now you can have the connection, you can have a person there, you can have people in your life, have a person in your life. But now, because you're so afraid, you're holding yourself back. You don't want yourself to be seen because you have been programmed to believe that it's unsafe. You don't want to be open with your emotions, or be open with your desires, or be open with your feelings, or be vulnerable, because society has said that that is not safe. Society, even in spiritual spaces, I've seen heavy focus on uh, talk about energy. Yes, energy is important. You have to understand, as a spiritualist, as a spiritual person, the first knowing is you knowing and getting reconnected with your spirit, and knowing that you are spirit first, having this lived experience, this physical, matter, this physical experience. So yes, energetics is very important. Okay, that is the backbone. But there has been a heavy focus on protect your energy at all cost. Or you have to watch if someone's trying to siphon your energy. Are those conversations important? I'm not saying that those conversations aren't necessary. They are. But sometimes there's no balance in those conversations. So it's causing people, again, to be even afraid, one more time, to be vulnerable with other people because they're thinking, oh, I don't want to get my energy muddled, so I'm just going to hold myself back. I'm just going to hold back the real me. I'm not going to share my emotions. I'm not going to share any parts of my life. I'm not going to share any personal information because I have to protect my energy. So again, yes, you have to protect your energy. Yes, emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, communication boundaries are important with balance. Everything in balance, right? There has to be this harmonious take that you have to express, okay? Sharing yourself, whether that's, you know, sharing a dream that you have, or sharing a goal that you have, or sharing parts of a project that you're working on. Yes, you have to go within, use your inner wisdom, your intuition, because we know that you can't tell everyone everything, but you have to have balance so that you're not shutting yourself off from being in your full expression and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. So, what you may want to do with this full moon, this is just coming up, you may want to do a full moon ritual for yourself to conjure safety within your own body, to conjure safety within your own expression. And in that conjure of that safety energy, that you'll be guided to sit amongst people, you'll be guided to sit in a community that supports that safety. Because you also have to know this, you closing yourself off, you could be closing yourself off to being noticed, to being recognized, to be seen for your wisdom, for your expertise, whatever that is, to be seen for your gifts. You may be closing yourself off from spaces and places and avenues that you are designed to skate through so that you can be seen and be noticed, so that your products can be purchased, so that your services can be purchased. You may be closing yourself off to be seen from being supported on some level. So that is yeah, that's what I feel with this world card. All right. Um, Let me know if you decided to do that ritual. I'd like to know what the results were, how you went about it. If you'd like to share in the comments, okay? And also share with me what you thought about this world card as well. Also, don't forget that I provide tarot readings. I will leave the link in the comment section for you to schedule your reading. All right. Check out my website so you can see how I go about my readings. I do a 4-card spread, and there's a reason for that. You can read about that in the description on that tarot reading page. Okay. All right. Until next time, stay magical.